Thanks for joining me, everybody. Today we're going to make gingerbread from the Forks Over Knives website, and I'll be sure and put a post to the recipe when I'm done. So we're going to begin with 3 cups of flour. I use Bob's Red Mill all-purpose gluten-free flour. You can use whatever flour you desire. It does say you can use a half buckwheat flour and a half oat flour, so if you'd like to do that instead. I've already added 2 cups, so I'm going to add 1 more cup. This makes a lot. It's going to be in a 9 by 13 pan. Alright, so here's cup number 3. And then our other dry ingredients, we're going to do a tablespoon of baking powder. And I get this aluminum-free Rumford baking powder. So make sure we're using both baking powder and baking soda, so make sure you don't get them confused. I'm going to do a full tablespoon, which is a lot of baking powder. And then we're going to do a teaspoon of baking soda. And this is my first time to make this recipe, so I'm glad you're here to make it with me. And then we're going to add our spices, which give it all kinds of flavor. We're going to start with ginger, and there's a teaspoon of each of these spices coming up here. All right, teaspoon of ginger. A teaspoon of cinnamon. Got to have the cinnamon. And a teaspoon of allspice, which I'm actually omitting because for some reason allspice makes me sneeze. So we're going to move on to the cloves. Now we're going to switch to half a teaspoon. We've been doing teaspoons for the next 2 spices. Allspice is also 1 teaspoon. So this half teaspoon of clove, wow, it smells amazing. I don't cook with clove very often. And then nutmeg, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. And our last dry ingredient will be a half teaspoon of salt. And if for any reason you want to omit that, see what happens. Okay. Now we're going to sift together, or whisk I should say, just whisk together the dry ingredients. The flour, the baking powder, baking soda, spices, and salt. Alright, we're going to set this aside and move on to the wet ingredients. Okay, so this recipe does not have any refined sugar, it uses maple syrup. And so we have a full cup. If you want to do less, that's up to you. I am fine with that. And then it does not have any oil because this is Forks Over Knives, which is amazing. So we're going to use applesauce instead, and I just want to show you, when I would buy a jar of applesauce, it would a lot of times get moldy, so I started buying these little ones because I just don't use them that often. And one of these is a half a cup of applesauce. So they're cute. You can take them in your lunch like a little kid. And this is organic, unsweetened applesauce. So we're going to do half a cup. And I piled in a little extra on top because I don't know if it's going to be a little dry, so I just added a little bit extra applesauce, but there's some other liquid that will make up for it also. Then we have 3/4 cup of molasses. So molasses and maple syrup both have a lot of minerals in it, so they're healthy for us, high in potassium. So we're going to add in 3/4 cup of this organic molasses, and you don't have to use organic ingredients, that's always up to you. Okay. Then we're going to add in some vinegar. Get all that out of there. Okay. Then we're going to add in, it calls for white vinegar, and I'm actually using apple cider vinegar because that's what I have. And it's 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And this is Bragg's. Can you see that? Yeah. organic Bragg's apple cider vinegar. But you can just use white vinegar. Okay, 2 tablespoons. And we're going to stir together if you want to zoom in here. And now while I've been doing this, excuse me, we're going to preheat the oven at 375. So that's been happening behind the scenes. The oven's been warming up. And I've also been heating some water. It calls for a 1 cup of hot water. It says to boil kettle on the stove and then remove it from the heat and add 1 cup. So I have that ready to go for us. And this is our last ingredient. Okay. That makes it obviously stir a lot better. Okay. Then the recipe says to add the dry to the wet. So here we go. We've got a lot of dry. So we're going to do it, let's see, we'll do it in half. Shifts of half. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this recipe is great to take to a holiday party. We have a little gathering tonight that we're going to bring it to, and you could just have it in the afternoon with a cup of tea. Whatever your heart's desires. Okay, let's add the rest, and we will move on. I love gingerbread. I've just never made it, so I'm very excited to try this recipe, and it's so healthy that I'm sure it will be delicious. And a great way to share plant-based desserts with your friends and family. Because it doesn't have any cholesterol, and it doesn't have any fat. Move this over. All right. Well, it smells amazing, and it's thickening a bit. It's actually not supposed to be too thick. It's supposed to be a little bit more runny and thin. So we're doing good. All right. So we're going to take a 9 by 13 glass dish. This dish has seen a lot of cooking. Okay, and we're going to pour it into this dish. Yummy. Whoops. Uh-oh, there's a little bit. Let me just whisk this. I just hit a little flower petal pump here. There we go. Let's get that out. All right. Oh, a little bit messy, but hopefully worth it. So we are going to bake this for 35 minutes at 375, and I'll see you in a minute with the results. Back with the delicious gingerbread that actually really is delicious. I already had one. So I'll be zooming in. So it turned out great. I've cut it. I've been dishing it out. I added a little powdered sugar. Of course, you don't have to do that. We're getting ready to go to a party, so you can see how much it makes and how thick it is. The molasses and the spices are so good. It was a smidgen dry, so I recommend maybe cooking it about 30 minutes instead of the full 35 minutes and see what you think. And I added a little more applesauce. I would even add a little more, maybe 3/4 cup instead of just a half. But it's amazing. It's so good. So thank you so much for watching and saving animals with your food choices. And I have 2 other holiday cookie recipes on my YouTube channel. One is powdered sugar snowballs, which are so easy and delicious. And my other favorite are snickerdoodles. So please check that out as well. And if you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. And you can ring the bell and I'll send you a notification weekly. Happy holidays!